Well, the dust may have settled on the federal election, but the Liberal Party is still trying to pick up the pieces after being decimated at the polls. South Australian Senator Leah Blyth, the Shadow Minister for Stronger Families and Stronger Communities, says it really was a wake-up call for the Liberal Party, and women in particular had sent a resounding message at the ballot box. Senator Blyth joins me now. Senator, good morning to you.
Good morning, Graeme, and good morning to your listeners.
The Liberals are coming from a long way back, aren't they, after that election result?
We certainly are. We've been sent a very strong message by the Australian voters, and we've got to do better.
So you've been sent a strong message, and no doubt that there is agreement and disagreement in the party room. What are the first steps you need to take to regain credibility?
I think there is, a long, hard look at ourselves and the policies that we put to the Australian voters and how we ran our campaign. And I think we're certainly taking the time to stop, to listen, to assess what we've done. We'll certainly be doing a very thorough, deep review into the election result and see where we can and should be doing better.
So how did you come to lose so many women voters, supporters?
Look, I think there is no one single point of failure. It's certainly something that I've reflected on, and, I sit in the age demographic of the female voters that we lost. I think it really does come down to good policies, Graeme. I think we've got to start putting together policies that have families and women at the centre of them, and it's got to appeal to them. So, I think for us, it's very much looking at how we can be flexible. I don't think it helps when we come out and say we're going to, step in on work from home policies. I think that was certainly one area where we did alienate a whole suite of voters, particularly women, with that statement. So really, I think it is about those good policies and making sure that, there are voices like mine in the party room representing women that are working, raising children, doing the school drop-off, balancing the household budget. They've got to be represented in the policies that we take to the next election.
You say there need to be voices like yours in the party room. Is that the case, that there are just not enough women within the Liberal Party?
Look, I think there has been commentary on that, and I think really this is, the more time we talk about getting more women in, and I know there's been backwards and forwards on gender quotas, I think the more women and the more, diversity that we can have in our membership and in our party room, the stronger we will be. I genuinely believe that. So I think this is really, again, it's getting back to those good policies, because if we have good policies and we have good grassroots engagement, we're a membership-based organisation, then I think those things will flow naturally from that.
What are your views on quotas, getting more women sitting in Parliament?
I would love to see, as I said, more diversity in Parliament. The gender quotas is really an issue for each of the individual divisions to take. And I think at the moment in South Australia, there isn't overwhelming support for the gender quotas. And I'm, me personally, I think that we should be looking at advancement by merit. I think we allow our grassroots members to select who will represent them in Parliament. And I think by putting things like quotas in, we do disenfranchise our members' right to be able to choose based on merit. I think it does it sends a message that women can't get there without quotas, and that we need special rules. And I think for me, that is a risk that we will install less qualified candidates just so that we can meet gender targets. So I think there are certainly issues if the party is looking to go down that path.
But quotas in favour of women have certainly worked for the Labor Party.
I think, and that's question. I guess the Labor Party are a very, very different organisation to the Liberal Party. We allow our grassroots members to choose who's going to represent them in Parliament. The Labor Party doesn't do that. So I think we've got to be true to the values and the traditions that we have within our party, and I don't think that gender quotas are truthful to those values that we hold.
You've called for a number of practical reforms regarding the party, and you've been quite outspoken in the area of childcare.
Certainly, anything to do with families. I mean, it has been devastating what we've seen with the reports of alleged abuse in the childcare centres in Victoria. And I think we really do need to be making sure that we are keeping children safe. There is, no one is doubting that life is getting harder. And families now, you've got to have both parents out there working and trying to raise children. And that juggle is becoming more and more difficult. So I think we absolutely should be looking at policies and how we can make life easier for families. And some of those things are, having a look at how we've structured childcare. How do we value the unpaid care work that a parent might, be working part-time? There could be grandparents caring for children. I think we need to have all options on the table because modern families today, and this isn't even to buy a house, we hear of young people and young families struggling to get a deposit together to buy a house. They're having to work to pay rent. And I don't feel like I am that old, Graeme, but I look back and I think, I could save for a deposit for a house and I could absolutely get myself into the housing market. But I really do despair for young people, and I've got children. How are they going to get themselves a foot in the door in the housing market and raise their family and have good quality, balanced lifestyles?
Do you think childcare costs should be tax deductible?
Look, I think it's something that we should be looking at all options. Is it tax deduction? Is there a voucher system that we can introduce? And as I said, how are we going to respect some of that unpaid care work that is happening? Because we know that families need to get back into the workplace. Now, there is obviously two sides to every story, and there are people who choose not to have children. So should they be burdened with the cost of caring for other people's children? And that's a reasonable question to be asking. But I think we've got to be putting everything on the table to make life as easy for families as we can, to make sure that they have the greatest amount of freedom to make the choices that best suit their needs. And government, really, we should be getting out of the way to allow them to do that.
Now, if the Liberal Party, the coalition, are to make any inroads on Labor at the next election, you have to have a unified ticket. You have to know what you want and be appealing to a great majority of Australians. Has there been any direction or move in that side in the party room as yet? I mean, have you made any progress?
I think just as you've pointed out, it was a brutal election result, and I certainly think there has been progress in terms of we're listening, we're reflecting, we've got the review that is underway, and I think, I'm really excited to get back in to have a joint party meeting when Parliament resumes in a couple of weeks' time, and I think there is a lot of positive momentum. There is certainly a feeling in the Liberal Party that we've got to do better. We're all out there, we're listening, we're working hard on the ground, and I think that's we're going to take that fresh energy and that hunger to do better by the Australian people into this 48th Parliament.
What about the on-again, off-again coalition with the Nationals? Is that settled?
That is settled. We're back together. We will have a joint party meeting when we get back into Canberra, as I said, in a couple of weeks' time. And I think we've got to be focusing on the Australian people, and things like that I think are a distraction to us. We shouldn't be inwardly looking and talking amongst ourselves. We've got to be out there talking to the Australian people, and that's what every single one of us is focused on doing.
We mentioned at the start about women in particular sent a resounding message at the ballot box, and somebody's texted in, Ziggy in fact, "Hi Gigi, can someone please explain how we know how many women did or didn't vote for the Liberals? I don't remember being asked to identify my gender." So, Senator, how are you aware that there was a huge fall-off in women voters?
So we do rely on market research that happens. So there are things like exit polls that are conducted during election campaigns. So it is research and it is data. There is no way that we can be 100% accurate because, as your listener is aware, it is a secret ballot. So really this is quantitative research that's been done.
Now, I know Parliament isn't sitting, and this is an issue that's a concern, and you're a South Australian. The algal bloom in South Australia. Question out of left field. If this algal bloom had happened on Bondi Beach or in Sydney Harbour, it would be a national story, and the feds would be throwing everything at it. Do you think that Canberra doesn't see anything happening west of the Great Dividing Range?
It is always a battle, Graeme, to get people east to think about South Australia, and we have that same issue when we talk about water flows through the River Murray. I had a briefing on the algal bloom in May this year, and it is certainly very concerning. It's something that I am speaking to my federal colleagues about to get some action, because I think it is absolutely devastating. I've been speaking to some of the local fishers. This is something that is, while we don't want to make things hysterical or get people panicking, it is certainly of deep, deep concern, not just for our natural environment, but also for those who are relying on their businesses and their income in coming from the sea, and most of those are regional communities. So we're going to see this have a huge impact. And certainly I was speaking to another South Australian Liberal Senator yesterday about exactly what we can do to make sure that we get this issue onto the national stage.